Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Good and Do Good podcast, a show where we delve into our own unique experiences during our time as missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm your host, Jake, here alongside my brother and co-host, John, and introducing a new guest to the podcast this week, my wife, Rachel. What's up, Rachel?
Nothing much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you tonight.
Yeah, we had Sarah, John's wife, last week, and we figured we would take advantage of the wives being willing to actually participate in the podcast and have Rachel on. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding. She participates in the podcast a lot more than probably anybody really knows. So
she does. Like every week that you are on the podcast with me, you always say, "Well, my wife suggested that
I know.
this scripture and this preach my
Yes, I do the
gospel quote."
scriptures semi-often.
I love
Yeah.
that. It's so great.
So yeah, so I figured we should probably give a face to the name, or I guess a voice to the name for those of you who are listening through Spotify. But yeah, we're really excited to have her here and to talk a little bit more about her mission, which was unique to say the least. And we'll get a little bit into that in a bit. But
Yeah,
first and foremost, John, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. I have like a Halloween song on the mind recently because one, I took it to my piano student, and two, we've been singing it in choir a lot, and it's all about me. It goes
You
like this.
wrote you
It's
wrote
a
a song.
Halloween
I
song
haven't.
about you.
Well, here you'll hear it in a second. Here it goes. Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the flesh all gone. Ooh, wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on?
All right, I'm gonna stop you right there. So this is just a song, like a Halloween song that
Yeah, so you can sing it in a round and everything, and it just sounds really cool and a little bit creepy because it's in a minor key. So just been having it on the mind recently. It's been really fun. And then I gave it to my piano student today too, like an easier version to play. And they just ate it up because it's Halloween and everything. So
where
it's
did you
good.
find it?
I mean, you can find it anywhere because it's a traditional song. It's
Have you
like
heard it?
It sounds familiar.
It doesn't sound familiar to me at all, but I guess me and John both grew up in the same household, so what's familiar to me or unfamiliar might be.
I mean, I didn't hear it until I got into choir. So, like this choir that I'm student teaching for, but like, it's a really good song. I like it. And I know you recently went to LA.
Yeah, I got back from LA at the end of last week, so we had this work conference. Well, it's not really a work conference. It was for work,
Mhm.
but it's not like it was a conference for, I don't know, for everybody at BYU athletics to go to. It was just for me and my boss.
Yeah.
We're both graphic designers for BYU athletics. And we went to Adobe Max in Los Angeles, which is basically just a convention for anybody who uses Adobe products.
Yeah. Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere,
Yeah,
Lightworks, right? What
Lightroom,
others? Lightroom, that's what it's called.
which I actually don't really use Lightroom. I use just Camera Raw and Photoshop,
Yeah.
which I mean, most people probably don't know about, but that's what I used instead of Lightroom. But yeah, it was really good. I spent most of the week there. I was gone 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
And how was it, Rachel, being husbandless for 5 days?
I mean, it was sad for sure, but I
Yeah.
had a friend over and went to a dance class, so that was fun. So,
Really? Sarah went to a dance class this last Saturday.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's fun.
it was like she did 3, well, it was like a dance workshop where she learned 3 different dances and had to perform it
Oh dang.
just like in the afternoon of that same day. So she liked that. How was your dance class?
The teacher didn't show up, so
Oh, really?
yeah. The girl that I went with, because it's at her gym,
Uh-huh.
ended up teaching the class from what she
Oh.
remembered from going to the class multiple times. So it was kind of interesting, but it was still fun and definitely still a workout for me. So it was good.
So what did you do this more for working out, or are you gonna actually perform it, or?
No, it's kind of like Zumba where you're just kind
Yeah.
of following the instructor, and but it's
Don't
more like hip hop based.
don't get me started on how much I love Zumba. I mean, I don't do it that often, but when I do it, I'm just, like, way into it.
But
I
it's a
even
passion.
yeah, I, like, bought DVDs. I think Jacob might remember, maybe not, I don't know, but I bought, like, a whole pink pack of DVDs all about Zumba
So
from Walmart. It cost me, like, $50. I'm like,
Well, now that you mentioned pink pack of DVDs, that does sound a lot like you.
yeah.
So I still don't remember, but I can definitely imagine.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you like dancing, Rachel?
I do. I
Yeah.
grew up going to jazzercise with my mom, so it's very similar.
So is jazzercise different in Utah because of the Utah Jazz? Is it like even more of a play on words?
No.
Because I know you guys
Jazzercise.
do junior jazz, which is like
Yes,
a
we do.
basketball thing. I don't know. I wasn't sure
I
if
don't
jazzercise
remember
was,
any jazz bears there
which is
or
good because Rachel is actually terrified of
basketballs.
the jazz bear.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know, the face just
It
Yeah, the
doesn't really
face
is
look
is
like
not
a bear.
happy.
the face is scary. I really agree with you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also grew up doing jazzercise with my mom.
Oh, yeah.
Did you too, Jacob, or no? My mom had a
With Richard Simmons?
it wasn't a Richard Simmons one, but she also had a Richard Simmons one though. Like
I don't know if that's
it wasn't
jazzercise.
jazzercise, but she had like a old 60s or 70s VHS that she would she would do jazzercise, and I would just do it with her in the morning, and we just like have fun. Just
It's cute.
yeah. So yeah, jazzercise is fun too.
This week, President Eyring, his wife, passed away, which I don't know. Anytime I hear that an apostle's wife died, I don't know. Just a part of me it just dies because it's so sad. Like
Yeah.
there's such an integral part of all of the work that their husbands do. In fact, some might argue they do more of the work or more of the stress is on them. I just know that when I was on my mission, like the mission president obviously is the one that gets a lot of the credit, I guess, for lack of a better word. But President Bednar would have been absolutely nothing without his wife, Sister Bednar. So our thoughts and prayers definitely go out to President Eyring and his family because that's always a really difficult time to go through.
Yeah. I mean, today I was reading a scripture in 2nd Nephi 9 about a death, honestly, and I thought about my friend Spencer, and the scripture is in verse 6. I picked it up right here. It just says, "For death has passed upon all men to fulfill the merciful plan of the great creator. There must needs be power of resurrection, and the resurrection must needs come unto man by reason of the fall. Wherefore it must needs be an infinite atonement." So I when I read that, I was just like, death, even though it's a sad thing, it's still part of the merciful plan of the creator, and it's part of a bigger picture. So it just made me feel a lot better and more at peace. So then, and it was from the Book of Mormon, even better, right?
I mean, I think that they're both important, but I'm just kidding. The fullness of the gospel is in the Book of Mormon. It's not in the Bible, unfortunately. Although a lot of the gospel is in the Bible.
Hot take right here. Just kidding.
No, that's not a hot take at all. That's literal fact. Like I taught that all the time on my mission.
I know, I'm just
Um,
messing. Yeah.
which, speaking of the mission, what a perfect segue to start talking about Rachel and her mission. So,
Yeah.
Rachel, we mentioned that your mission was unique. Why do you think I said that?
Probably because I was a COVID missionary.
So, at what point on your mission did COVID hit? Like
Um,
March of 2020? Is that when it was?
yes. Yeah, we went into lockdown on St. Patrick's Day of 2020. So that was about 2/3 of the way into my mission.
Okay.
So I had about 6 months left after
So
that we were inside the whole time.
before you even talk about that, like, where did you serve? Was it for
That's
a year and a half?
irrelevant. What is it that they say in court when they disagree with something? Objection.
Objection.
Objection, John.
My
That is
thing is,
irrelevant.
you're like,
Objection, irrelevant.
my thing is better though. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, Rachel, where did you serve?
Yes. So I served in the Michigan Detroit mission, and I was lucky to be able to serve my full 18 months. A lot of people during that time weren't able to serve their whole time. I know a lot of elders on my mission had to actually go home early because they changed the time for elders. Like
Wow.
if they were after a certain amount of time on their mission, then like they would just go
Mhm.
home. So we were wondering if that would happen to sisters too, but it never ended up happening. So I was able to serve the whole time, even though my mom was quite often telling me like, "Hey, you can come home if you want. Like it's okay."
That's just
Wow.
because your
But
mom wanted your mom. No, I know her mom. Her
100% she
mom
just wanted me home.
100% wanted her to come home. She probably wanted her to come home if it happened at 6 months or at 2 months or even 3 weeks,
Yeah.
like, her mom absolutely adores Rachel,
I
obviously.
would I would think the sisters stayed out longer because the sisters are just awesome. They're
True.
just so great
Yeah,
in everything they do. I
I
love the
think
sisters.
I don't know, maybe yeah, I, for one, think that sisters should be able to serve just as long as elders.
Yeah,
That is a hot take,
that
John.
is a
That's
hot
where you
take.
do come
Yeah.
in and say
Hot,
hot
hot,
take.
hot
True.
take right there.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think that they're, you know, well, I guess the only difference is that men, it's like a priesthood responsibility, but for women, it's an option, a good option, but just an option, and so that's the only difference. But sisters, more often than not, were better missionaries than elders on my mission. So
All the time. They're just so good.
it's
Those
it's
sisters are so
almost
good.
it's almost just unfortunate that like missions had sisters for less time because I don't know, they were just so effective. So after all of that, Rachel, were you an obedient missionary? I'm just kidding. No, don't answer that. Objection.
I
Once
would say though, in the MTC, I was so glad it was just a year and a half because I was like, if I had to do 2 years, I don't know if I could do this. So I was always so grateful that it was just a year and a half. I was like, it's okay. Just a year and a half. I don't have to do 2 years. It's
Yeah,
okay.
it does feel, at least from experience, it does feel a lot longer. Like and that's
that's
and
true.
that's not nothing against the sisters because they don't have any option other than 18 months, right? Well, some choose to extend, but a lot of times it's not granted. But I remember when the sisters that came out with me went home, I was just so jealous, honestly. Like, I was just so annoyed that they were able to come home so much earlier, and the next 6 months were like an entire lifetime. Like, the I don't know, I learned so much in those last 6 months,
Yeah.
like, it might as well have been another mission. So, I was always kinda jealous, though, that the sisters got to go home so much earlier, but like I said, you guys don't really have much of a choice, but
Nope.
you just follow the Lord's direction and reap the rewards.
We
Yeah.
can just do what you do in 2 years much faster.
That's right. Isn't
So
that what they say?
Yeah, that's what they
Honestly,
say.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
So
So
tell us a little bit about your mission, Rachel. Like last week we went funny stories first and then spiritual stories. Do you have any funny stories to share with us?
yes, it was hard to narrow down. I have like this whole sticky note of random stories. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, humor on the mission is a little bit different. You think things are funny that other people wouldn't really think are funny.
yeah.
That's true.
So you don't have like social media and things like that. So you're a little bit out of touch in the humor aspect, I think. So hopefully these are actually funny stories and not just stuff that I thought was funny on my mission. One that always comes to mind that I always share is when I had a bird in my apartment. Um, I already don't like birds very much.
That's
Yeah.
an understatement, I would say. I would
I
That's
say Rachel hates
I
birds.
I don't like birds.
Yeah, there's like a
They're like
conspiracy.
flying rats.
Yeah,
they're
there's
like
like a
fire.
well, like pigeons, I feel like are flying rats, but like not all birds are like pigeons. Like hummingbirds are amazing.
They have their good points for sure, but I don't want them in the room with me.
You know that conspiracy theory that's like birds aren't real?
Uh-huh.
I feel like
Yeah.
Rachel might have founded that club. Not because she actually believes that birds aren't real, but because it's just wishful thinking at
I
that point.
want birds to not be
So
real.
there's like a Studio C clip, but not Studio C. It's like the new JK Studios where in Freelancers, the one of the main characters, Stacy, they say, "Well, Stacy just hates birds," and then it goes off to a clip of him hearing coos, and he's like sitting on a bench and hears coos. He goes off screen, picks up the bird, comes back on screen, and kicks the bird just to show how much he hates them. But I would be of the opinion that I love birds. I love birds a lot. They're so
Well,
good.
I'm sorry then. If one's flying around your room in the middle of the
That's
night, maybe
true.
you might think slightly differently about that specific bird. So it was nighttime and I was sleeping, as you do. And I woke up because I heard some rustling and like flapping, and I was like,
Oh
oh
boy.
no. And I didn't know what it was. I was like, is it a bat? Is it a
Yeah.
bird? Like, am I gonna get rabies? All these things were going through my head. And it was just flying back and forth between the two windows in the bedroom.
Wow.
And so I'm like under my blanket at this point. I'm like terrified it's gonna get me or something. And I'm like screaming at my companion to wake up. And she was a really deep sleeper. And I'm screaming and screaming. She finally wakes up. But we didn't really know what to do because I don't know, what do you do when there's a bird in your room? So we just run out and close the door and we just slept in the living room.
Yeah.
And then the next morning we're like, okay, we gotta face this bird, figure out how to get it out. We can't find the bird. The bird's nowhere
Oh,
to be
Oh,
found.
that's even worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
No windows were open.
So it's
Like,
there.
so first off, I don't know how in the world it got in, but
Yeah.
it's somewhere in our bedroom.
Huh.
So we like are looking around and stuff, but we don't see anything. And I was like, maybe I hallucinated it. I don't know. I haven't been sleeping very well. Like, maybe I'm just crazy. So we go
Oh,
out for the day and we're at interviews. So we're not near our apartment at all. And when we get back, there's like this horrible rainstorm and it knocked out the power. So we don't have any power. And we walk in. I was like, okay, like maybe the bird wasn't real. Hopefully it's not in here. And then we go back to bed. And as soon as my head hits the pillow, I hear it flapping and like
oh
moving around the room
no.
again. I was like, no, not again. Luckily, my companion was awake this time. So we like, we're gonna run out again. Cause again, what do you do with a bird in your room?
And did you not
Um,
have power still at this
yeah,
time,
we
or?
still don't have power.
Oh
The power
boy.
was out for 27 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
it was
long time.
crazy. And we're running out and we're trying to grab our phones with flashlights because we can't really see where we're going and the power's out.
Yeah.
And we run out, but the bird has come out with us and it's flying around the kitchen in the living room, freaking out.
More
At this
wide
point,
open space, I guess.
yeah, I am on the floor like crying. Like I was not okay. And luckily my companion had it together.
Yeah,
So she opens the front door, which doesn't lead to outside, it leads to a hallway, which again raises
like
the
it
question of how did the bird get inside?
like it was an apartment building or something.
Yeah, we were on the
Oh,
second floor.
Yeah, that's
So,
crazy.
like,
Because you didn't have any windows open
we didn't have any
initially.
windows. All the windows had screens on them.
yeah.
The only thing I can think of was there was an AC unit that, like, went to the outside, right? But
Mhm.
the holes are tiny. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how this bird got in. But we grab, like, the broom, and
Yep.
we're, like, trying to, like, guide it out, and we have our flashlights from our phones, and we're like,
They're probably
"Okay,
freaking
go this
out
way."
too.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you think that birds are like moths or something? That they're like
It was
attracted to
dark. I
light?
don't know. I needed to see how to get
Oh, it
out.
would follow the yeah, I
Yeah.
see what you mean. Okay. Initially, when I heard that, I was like, I don't think that that's a thing, Rachel.
No. It just wouldn't know where to go otherwise. So, eventually it flies out, and we just slammed the door, and I
Uh,
don't know what happened to the bird after that, but it was likely stuck in the hallway for another good
uh,
while until somebody opened the door to the outside downstairs, but that was one of the most traumatic moments of my mission, for sure.
very traumatizing for sure. I that reminds me, Sarah and I went to DC this last summer, but we had to do a layover in Orlando. And so in the Orlando airport, there's this like really big food court area. And so we stayed there for like 5 hours, and there was this bird that was just flying in the rafters and came down and was on the ground, and we like fed it something. But I like wonder, how did it get in there? And is it just
Yeah.
like living by what the people give the food, like stuff like that. I'm like,
So
oh,
you think that that bird was there longer than when you guys were there? Like, you think it was there for, like, months and months and, like, was being raised by on food court
yeah,
food?
I think so because this was like a big, wide open space, like really big and like cathedral big, honestly. And it was just in the rafters, probably like, you know, nesting in there and just, yeah, it's crazy.
We need to have a follow-up episode where we find out the story of this bird. And John, we
If
need to go back to BC, track
we
down this bird and interview the locals and figure out the legend of the food court bird.
You can
we
make a new podcast just about
Just
birds.
about No.
we need to find out the legend of the bird that Rachel had to deal with.
Maybe
And
it's the same bird.
It could be
oh,
at
yeah.
this point.
Flew south for the winter. I mean, Orlando, Florida, you know?
Yeah.
That
We
is
would like that.
south.
Yeah. That's where everyone in Michigan and Ohio go for, like, vacations.
Really?
They all go to Florida, so it would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Very good, very good. I totally skipped over this part. You said you were a COVID missionary. I want to hear a little bit about that before we keep going. So
Yeah.
tell us some more stories about the COVID portion of your mission, like what was going on there.
Yeah, we definitely had to change what we were doing. It was very scary at first because we had little information, and it was just, like, bits and pieces that you saw, like, on Facebook and what members would tell you, and so first we heard that, like, the schools around us were shutting down and the MTC was closed, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds kinda serious.
Yeah,
What are we gonna
definitely.
do?" And then the next day we were out tracting and nobody would open the door. Like, people don't wanna open the door anyways a lot of the time, but, like, it was nobody was even giving us the courtesy to, like, say, "Hello, no thank you."
Yeah, at least open it a crack or something, like,
Yeah,
see if you're anybody important, right?
yeah.
Which you are, because 'cause you're a missionary.
But, like, nobody was wanting to be close to anyone, and we just didn't really know what was going on, and we saw an email from someone in the ward saying, "Hey, since church is canceled on Sunday, we're gonna cancel, like, our youth party." And I was like, "Church is canceled on Sunday? Like,
Yeah.
Nobody tells the
what is
missionaries
this?"
these things.
So, that's how we found out the church was canceled, and then I think the next day or, like, 2 days after that, we heard, like, "Shut down, you have to stay inside." And so, for the first little bit, we were like, "What do we do?" We just kinda sat around for a bit being like, "This is crazy."
Yeah.
They told us to go get food storage, which sounded scary.
Yeah, definitely.
We're like, "How long are we gonna be here?" They made us get rid of our couches too, which was a bummer because we had to be inside all the time.
What's their reasoning for getting rid of
Yeah, that's
those?
weird.
They said it was like a bedbug problem.
That's
Hmm.
dumb because so that's not even connected to the COVID thing.
No, it just happened
So,
to line up and it was terrible.
Yeah, that's lame.
who made you get rid of the couches? Your mission president or just, like,
Mhm.
your apartment?
The president. Yeah, and this
Really?
was mission-wide, everyone had to get rid of their couches.
Mission-wide. Wow.
Yeah. So we sat on the floor for the next 6 months, basically.
What?
Um,
Do you guys have good carpet?
depended on the
That's
apartment.
the real question.
Did
I
you
mean,
guys
we had,
have
like,
beds?
metal chairs. We had beds, but most of the time we were on the floor, honestly.
Yeah, when you're a missionary, you don't wanna spend too much time in your bedroom because then it's gonna
You
lead
fall
to
asleep.
Yeah, you fall
yeah,
asleep.
I
Yeah.
would. I
Yeah.
definitely would.
So, that was crazy, but we kind of, after a while, figured out what we were gonna do. So, basically, we would get on Facebook and just friend all the people in our area, and if they friended us back, we would try and start a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Some succeeded better at that than others. We would also do, like, cold calls of people in area book, which we taught some lessons from that for sure.
Yeah.
Some people somehow found, like, the yellow pages and
Oh,
started
wow.
calling people from that, like,
Yeah.
we had to get creative, and we got to do a lot of more, like, video editing and, like, create content online, which was actually pretty fun.
Should have brought you to Adobe Max with
I
me.
know, I'm basically an expert, except for our editing capabilities because of the
Limitations.
restrictions on our phone.
Yeah.
terrible. It took forever to edit a video.
Yep.
And luckily, when COVID started, I was in an area that had like a computer lab in it in the church. So we were able to go into the computer lab. But again, the power went out. I don't know why this is a theme, and it like ruined the internet in the church, and nobody was there to fix it because nobody was in the church. And so I had my dad on FaceTime on a P day and was like, how do I fix this? Like, I need to get at least one computer to work. So we got one computer connected to the internet, and we were.
Did you have to use an Ethernet cable or something
Yeah,
instead
so
of
we
Wi-Fi?
took the like computer out of the like computer lab. So it kind of looked like it was stolen if anyone had gone in there. And we brought it into
That's actually the computer that we're using right now to record.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We moved it to like the library and hooked it up to the Ethernet cable there. But that meant only one person could work on the videos, like editing stuff, which was kind of hard as a companionship. And it was kind of crazy.
Did you ever have direction from your mission president? Like how was like the communication from your mission president? Did you ever have like zone conferences during this time? Like what was that like?
Yeah. So zone conferences in person obviously were canceled.
Yeah.
And it was funny, right before we went into lockdown, we had a zone conference, and he was like, I don't even know why you guys have Facebook. And then for the next 6 months, we were on Facebook all day, every day. So
he's
that
like,
was kind of
I
funny.
see the blessings of
He's
Facebook
like,
now.
Yes. But we would have a meeting every week. I don't remember what day it was, but we would have a meeting with the whole mission.
Okay.
And he would share inspiration or do some trainings.
So you
stuff like
didn't have
that.
district council.
We just did it through Zoom.
So you had district council and a mission-wide meeting? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, every week. We were able to start doing district council again, like my last 2 weeks.
In person?
In person.
Your last 2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't go back to church until my last area, the end of my last area. I didn't get the sacrament for a long time. So that's kind of a story for a spiritual story later. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that for a spiritual. Cool. Well, I mean, not cool. That's
You
crazy.
need to work on your empathy, John.
I do.
It was interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, it is interesting. Okay. Well, back to funny stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another one that I had was kind of like an office moment where when Michael and Dwight are in the car, like listening to the like directions, and they drive into a lake. Kind of how this story goes. But it was a cornfield because we were in Ohio. So we were trying to find this member's house. And every mission car has something called a Garmin. Well, I guess in my mission they did. I don't know. In your guys'
The
mission.
GPS.
GPS. Garmin.
But we called them Garmin.
'Cause that's the brand.
Yeah.
That's the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was Garmin. But Garmin was not up to date always on the roads.
Yeah.
And so it would take you weird places sometimes. So we're trying to find this house, and it takes us around everywhere, and we're just in the middle of these fields. And it takes us down this dirt road that's like a one-way street, like only one car could fit on it. And we're going pretty fast because there's no speed limit on this road. And so Garmin and Tiwi can't really stop us from going fast. Tiwi's what's tracking our driving. And we're going and going and going. And then the road ended, but we didn't really notice that it ended. And so we're like so close to like going into this soy field. And
Yeah.
the unfortunate thing is that the house that was connected to these fields, their backyard was facing us, so they could totally see us almost run into their field. And my companion who was driving like slams on the brakes, and we're all like, what happened? Because we didn't even realize there was a field there, and we like look and we're like,
Yeah.
that's an actual field. So another weird mission rule is whenever you're backing up, somebody has to go outside and back you. no matter how much room there is, that's just
We
the
haven't
rule.
talked about that on our mission yet, on our podcast yet. Like,
No, it's a good
it,
rule, honestly, though.
it
It
is a good
is.
rule.
Like, I've hit people, or not people, but cars multiple times, like,
From
just probably
backing
in the
out.
last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only a couple of which I've told Rachel about. But yeah, so I think it's a good
Yeah.
rule. Even
I
I
loved
mean,
it.
even if they're I know, as somebody who's not super confident, especially when backing, like, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are not a big fans of it.
Yeah. But when the family is watching you almost run into their field, and then a girl in a skirt has to run behind the car and back them when there's clearly nothing
It's
obstructing it.
embarrassing,
It's
yeah.
so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then we were in a trio at the time, so I wasn't backing, which was nice. But we just were so embarrassed. Like, we got out of there as fast as we possibly
So it was a
could,
hit and run.
basically to their soy field.
Except you didn't hit the soy field.
We did not. We were
So
very
you
close,
stopped.
though.
Okay, that's good at least.
You mean you didn't like go and like tracked into that house and like say, "Hey, we're missionaries. Sorry
We
crashed
couldn't.
into your
This
field."
is a
It was
funny
COVID.
story, John.
was
This is
COVID.
not a-
We were not allowed to go to anyone's houses, so
So why were you guys driving then? That's the real question.
we were dropping off, I think, cookies or something to
Oh,
a member's
okay.
house because their son was about to leave on a mission, and we
Yeah.
were, like, trying to build a relationship with the members because we couldn't meet any of them in person, so
Yeah.
we were just trying our best.
So I'm curious, like, who did you teach during COVID? Like, did you
Yeah.
have lessons? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So everything was over video chat, or sometimes we just, like, texted people. There was this one lady who was really freaking out about COVID, and so I would text her and be like, "Hey, like, this is prayer, like, this is how you can do it, like, you can have access to God at all times," and that was cool. We taught people that we called, like, in our area book. What else did we do? Our member families, we would teach their kids. We would do a lot of member lessons, though, like, just
Yeah.
trying to keep our skills up.
Did
Stuff
you
like that.
meet people? Like, did the Facebook actually pan out?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely talked to some people. Like, for me, none of it really went far, I would say, but we did have some lessons from it for sure, but usually, like, 1 or 2, which I feel like is typical for
Yeah.
a lot of people you contact, so
Yeah, when we talked before, like a long time ago, you had mentioned that you were contacting just kind of random people that lived in your
Mhm.
area. Like you would just search, right? You would search like the area name and
Mhm.
then kind of like add everybody, right? Is that how it went?
So, what we did was I would search a letter in Facebook. So, letter A, and then put the location. So, Saline, Michigan. And then it would just pop up with everyone who had said that they lived in Saline, Michigan,
Yeah.
who, like, their first or last name started with an A. You would go through, friend them. You couldn't friend too many people, though, because then Facebook would block you.
Yeah.
So you had to
Oh,
be kind of selective. Yeah,
that's
I would think you
interesting.
were a bot, so you had to be careful.
Did you, like, hear about that from other missionaries? Like, "Oh, man,
Mhm.
we just got blocked today because we added too many," or something like
Yeah. Yeah, so
that?
Facebook once again inhibiting the work of salvation,
but it's still important,
but
unlike my
still
mission president
important
thought.
enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's also interesting.
Yeah. So, it works sometimes. I know people who baptized from that. I know people, I never did this, who would friend them and then just, like, call them, like, do a, like, FaceTime with them or
Ugh,
do Facebook Messenger.
my
I
anxiety
was
just
Oh.
cannot
never
handle that right
that
now.
bold.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's pretty bold.
I was thinking about it on the other end, and, like, if some random person just called me, I would be like, "This is not good,
I would
like, this
not
is a
answer.
creeper." So,
It's like a telemarketer call kinda thing.
yeah. But, to each their own, we were all trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I am impressed with their boldness because I was not going to do that.
When I asked you about, like, communication from your mission president and things like that, I was wondering, like, did they ever give you instruction about what to do during the COVID times? Like, is Was that ever discussed? I'm guessing it is. It
Yeah.
was, but
So it took some time for everyone
yeah,
to figure out what we should be doing, but they're the ones who were like, "Okay, go through all of your area book, call them, text them."
yeah,
Um, I think they suggested that we send like an inspirational video to everyone in our area book.
That's so many people.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then with the Facebook, they started making some guidelines and like kind of teaching us how to do that. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Guidelines for sure. Yeah, that's
But at
crazy.
first, we were on our own and had no idea
It
what
was
we
it
were
was like
doing.
it was like the COVID Wild Wild West for you guys then.
Yeah.
Missionary Wild Wild West.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, as an introvert,
Mhm.
when I heard about COVID hitting, missionaries, well, COVID going around the world, missionaries being forced to go
Mhm.
inside, was a little part of you grateful for the break?
Yes. I
Yeah,
believe that I was built to be a COVID missionary
gotcha.
personally, because going up to people was absolutely terrifying to me.
Yeah,
Didn't matter if it was the first day or I was a year in, it terrified me every single day.
yeah,
I did it, but I was still terrified. So, it was kind of a sigh of relief that I didn't have to have that face-to-face interaction, face-to-face rejection so much.
yeah.
I could just be ghosted. That was fine. It was a little bit easier on my
I
poor
think
heart.
for missionaries, though, I think it's holy ghosted is the term,
Yes, sorry.
which I mean sounds like a positive thing. It's still not. Being holy ghosted is not great in this context.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No.
All right, I think we've come to the time. We've talked about a lot of funny stuff, including being holy ghosted, but we do want to ask you to share one experience with us that really sticks out to you, where I guess just a really strong spiritual experience.
Yeah. Well, I guess the one I have to share is the one that I alluded to earlier. There's definitely lots of them that I thought about, but like I mentioned, during COVID, we didn't get the sacrament. We weren't at church. And the first week, they allowed somebody to come in and give us the sacrament. But COVID hit Detroit really hard. And we actually ended up having one of our senior missionaries pass away from COVID.
Wow.
So we took it very seriously. So we were not allowed to get the sacrament from anyone for a while. The elders could have the sacrament because they could do it themselves, but the sisters were kind of left out to dry a little bit, and that was really hard for me. And I didn't know like how much that would affect me, how much taking the bread and water actually meant to me really until that was taken away. And so every Sunday, me and my companion would go to the church and I would pretend to know how to play the piano and we would sing some hymns and then we would read the sacrament prayers together and then just kind of pray on our own. And that was always a good experience, but I still felt something lacking and that I just couldn't have the sacrament and that was really hard. And so it was Easter, so a couple weeks into being on lockdown, probably around a month, I would say, that I hadn't had the sacrament. And Easter is a special time, a very churchy time. So we kind of went through our routine of singing some hymns and then reading the sacrament prayers. And then in my personal prayer, I kind of started talking to God and being like, what can I do? Like, I don't have the priesthood power to like take the sacrament, but like, I want you to know that like, I want to renew my covenants with you. And even though I can't do it physically like I usually do, like, here's my heart. Like, I want to like keep my covenants to you and renew those covenants with you. And I just had this like overwhelming feeling of like, yes, I accept like your prayer and your renewal of your covenants and everything's going to be okay and I need you to go help others. Right now is a time where people are in a lot of distress. People are scared and it's your job to help them. So I was bawling and I'm sure my companion was like,
Yeah.
is she okay? but that was a really sacred experience for me, and I never hope that something like that happens again, but it was something that I think about pretty much every Sunday now when I take the sacrament. It means that much more to me. It's a joy for me to take the sacrament now. So yeah,
Thank
that's my story.
thank you for sharing. Yeah, the sacrament is really important. I remember during COVID, like when Sarah asked me to bless and pass the sacrament and do that in our family. And it was like it I totally get what you're saying about the power of the sacrament and like how it connects you to the atonement, and just to have that experience that you had sounds really special, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, great. Yeah. Once again, thank you so much for sharing that experience and just being with us today in general. We do have just a couple more sections of our podcast that we like to do. So we'll go ahead. Well, actually, I mean, hopefully you know about that because you should have prepared a scriptural nugget for us.
I
So
did.
let's go ahead and shift over to our scriptural nugget from Rachel.
Yeah. So this chapter was very important for me in going on a mission, actually. When I got my call, I thought about rejecting it because it just terrified me. I'm very much an introvert, I'm very shy, so I was genuinely terrified. But I read this chapter in the Book of Mormon, it's Alma 26, and it's Ammon talking a lot about his mission. And so this chapter is just special to me, and I really love verse 37. It says, "Now, my brethren, we see that God is mindful of every people, whatsoever land they may be in, yea, he numbereth his people, and his bowels of mercy are over all the earth. Now this is my joy and my great thanksgiving, yea, and I will give thanks unto my God forever. Amen." And I love the scripture, the line that stands out to me is God is mindful of every people. And I feel like I learned that on my mission, that God is working with everyone in different ways. He cares about all of his children. He cares about them in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Ohio, in Iowa. Um, he knows his children, and he's working to bring them home, and he loves them. So I feel like I learned that most on my mission.
Yeah. Yeah. My preach my gospel preach my gospel nugget goes really hand in hand with what you've been saying, Rachel, because you did say that you didn't feel confident sometimes, and this nugget comes from the section about relying on the Spirit, and I'll just read it. So it says, "Some missionaries feel confident in themselves." Obviously, that wasn't everybody. Like, yeah, like in for like some people feel confident a lot. Some people have spurts of confidence, but anyways, it says others lack such confidence. Humbly put your confidence and faith in Jesus Christ, not in yourself. Rely on the Spirit rather than your own talents and abilities. The Holy Ghost will magnify your efforts far beyond what you can do on your own. And so, just like that story that you told, spiritual experience about the sacrament, the Holy Ghost like taught you in that instance, and you're able to feel peace about the sacrament, and just enjoying the blessings of the Holy Ghost on our mission. Because for people like me and you and other people that are serving their mission that don't feel confident in themselves, just like it says, when you humbly put your confidence and faith in Jesus Christ, he will bless you in everything you do. So great.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, we've got one question that we wanted to ask. John, it looked like you had something to say, so I'm going to go ahead and have you. John, you're going to let me down. He's shaking his head for those who are listening. In terms of a question that we can ask our audience, anybody have any ideas? Anybody been Holy Ghosted?
In the good sense.
In the good sense, yeah. I'll ask a question. So we talked about confidence. Like, what are some things that you can do to feel confident in yourself? And then like reach out and rely on the Spirit, and how has
Wait,
that blessed you?
sorry. Wait, what? I'm that was like two like ideas that were not. Oh, wait, how can you restate it for our viewers, but mainly for me?
For Jake.
Yeah, so I don't even know anymore. I'm sorry.
What gives you confidence? What's the question?
Yeah, there you go. Rachel simplified it for us. Yeah,
What gives you confidence?
yeah.
Didn't we just read that it's supposed to be this?
But like, how has that blessed your life? There you go.
Okay, I like that. I like that. That's a little bit that's a little bit more personal. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's do that. How has it blessed, like, I guess, relying upon the Lord and the Spirit in difficult times for confidence specifically blessed your life? So yeah, please share with us your personal experiences. We want to hear about them, whether it's been on a mission or just, living everyday life, because we can utilize, the Spirit every day, and we should utilize the Spirit every single day.
Yeah.
So please share with us. John, do you want to share how they can share with us?
Well, first I want to say thank you to Rachel for being on our podcast, our podcast today.
Of course.
We loved hearing your experiences. We love hearing from outside sources that isn't just us sometimes, And if you want to reach out to us, everybody that's listening right now, we have several methods. One, you can reach out through our email, which is begooddogoodpod@gmail.com. Or you can leave a comment on the YouTube or Spotify video that we have, or recording, and you can get the recordings at youtube.com/@begooddogoodpod. So thank you so much for listening tonight. Or whatever time you're listening. We're grateful to have you as listeners, and we're grateful to be able to share our experiences about being missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we'd love to hear from you about any aspect of the mission. So please leave a comment for us. And with that, I would like to remind you to be good and do good.